Is that?
Is that you, Ben?
Yeah, hey Kiefer.
Hey.
Hold on, Zach. I'm gonna mute you, Zach.
sorry, I was muted. Good afternoon, Cheryl. You've got Zachary Ahern, Ben Spalding, and Zachary Schneider on the line from CISS.
Okay, and then I'm in my office, and then Tammy is at RDC with their staff, so hopefully they can hear you too.
Okay. Are they in the meeting? I don't see them yet.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think caller 3 is Ben, so.
Okay.
Oh, we just had somebody else join.
Yeah, it looks like somebody's coming in right now. If you ask me a question, I have you muted, so just might take me a split second to unmute.
It looks like Lynn's on the line now too, so.
Okay. We'll just give them a minute or two to connect the audio. Good afternoon. You've got Zachary Ahern, Zachary Schneider, and Benjamin Spalding on the line from CISS. Cheryl joined a few minutes ago.
Hi, Ben. This is Tammy. How are you today? So we have the whole team with RDC here. We've got Steve and Glenn and Lynn and Ernie and Patty and Jill.
Understood.
So you've got a whole group of us.
Okay. And for today, the plan is to review Inventory Pro as well as the Sage as well as the Sage interface. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I guess if there's no objections, we'll get started with the review. And let me know at any point in time if you'd like me to slow down or explain something. Okay. Let me turn on screen sharing there. Yep. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Can we minimize the GoToMeeting? Yeah.
Yes, there should be a button on GoToMeeting to shrink the controls. I believe it's in the top right corner.
One of the two arrows, or that one?
There we go. Okay, we're set.
Okay. Okay, so I'll just log out and start from the beginning. Inventory Pro Online, it's an online web application that you can log into through any web browser. And each different person can be assigned a different user account and password in order to log in, and all transactions they process will be associated with that account. Once you log in, the first screen you arrive on is the item master list. This is the This is the landing page where you can do a lot of different operations throughout the system. From here, we can select different warehouses we'd like to work in, look at different views on the inventory and the different items we have set up, as well as filter that same list by suppliers and other attributes as well. I'll just move down the page here. On the left, we have the search box. This is there for any report in the system, so you can easily search on any of the available columns. You can also set up specific filters for your reports. So if you'd like to set up a date range or something, you know, we have a system here that you can do that with. And this is available for every report in the system. You can also print or export the reports as well. On the right-hand side here, you can create items. Let me open that up. And an item in our system is just a definition for that type of inventory. I believe they have a similar thing in Sage for the basic inventory definition. And here you can set up all the defaults for that item, such as the cost, any serial number information, assembly information, unit of measure, etc. We have about, I believe, 80 or 90 fields in the database that we can turn on or off here to give you quite a bit of customization there in terms of what you would like to track. Back to the item master list. On the left-hand side, this edit button will let you modify any existing record in the system. Those buttons are available for various different screens. So anytime you see them, that means that you can modify a given record. And that just takes you again into the item definition screen. And let me jump back out again. Moving across, we have different labels in our system. They can be used with barcoding and our mobile system in order to scan and process transactions a bit faster. This is a standard 2x1 barcode with the description at the top and the item ID barcoded. We also support serial number barcoding and location barcoding as well. The next column over is the warehouse assignment column. So our system does allow you to assign different types of inventory to different warehouses in case you'd like to keep things separate or you know, keep control, you know, keep material that gets assembled out of, you know, a sales warehouse, for example, or other things like that. Next one across is a category. You can easily click on the top here in order to sort by that column. And that is true for all of the reports. If the column can be sorted, you just need to click at the top once and you can change the sorting. And each click will change it from A to Z to Z to A, and then the third click will remove it. In various points in the system, we do support images and PDF documents. So, for example, some of our clients will use this with asset numbers in order to you know, attach different Department of Transportation paperwork and such to their trucks. You know, that way if they're out in the field and they need to pull up specific documents, they can easily do so. And that is available for various objects in the system, such as parts, assets, orders. We can attach documents to anything pretty much. Next button over is the history button. This will take you into any transactions that have occurred for a given item number. So here we can see we have two different transactions for item number 06870. The first one was a receive stock transaction, and it will give you the purchase order and where the stock was moved to and the exact date and time of the transaction. Similarly, we have 10 units here that were issued out of the system on a cycle count, it looks like. And again, it will give you the exact attributes of that transaction. Anytime any sort of stock transaction occurs in the system, whether it's you know, an issue, a receipt, or a move stock, a lease, or any other attribute available in Inventory Pro, it will show up on this audit trail. And last couple of columns here, reorder levels lets you set different reorder levels for your warehouses. Clients will use this to, set their mins and maxes in order to generate automated restocking reports and just help out with the paperwork. And the last couple columns here, the in stock, the on order, on hold, packed, and committed. Those columns show inventory that's in different statuses in the system. By clicking on a given link here, we can see exactly what's going on for one of those inventory lines. So here, by clicking on the in-stock column, we can go to the Locate Move screen. This will show us exactly where that inventory is in the warehouse and the number of units and basically where it came from. From here, if we wanted to split this lot into multiple lots, we could do so. We could also move it to a new location or mark it as a hold if there was some sort of problem. And similarly, the on order column will show you exactly what purchase order a given item is on. And committed will show you any shipping orders or work orders that are expected to consume stock. And that's a lot of the basic features there. Any questions or concerns so far? Okay. Well, I'll keep going here a bit. I'll give you a general overview of Inventory Pro, and then we'll show you how that interfaces across to Sage. Under the inventory menu, receive stock is a basic stock receipt transaction. This screen is used when processing a purchase order or an appointment or any other type of inbound inventory situation. This screen is a simple grid. You can use handheld scanners with this. If you have a USB scanner attached to your computer, you can scan item IDs into these fields on the left, and it will immediately skip to the next field. So here I'll just fill out the form with a basic inventory transaction. And we'll just put in some locations and click Save. Sorry, my connection's a little slow here today. And you can see with this first inventory item, this is a serialized item. So, and it's also set to automatically assign serial numbers. So you'll see we generated serial numbers for those two items here. And the second line here for the main board was not serialized as it's not set up for that. So at this time, we can receive the transaction, and that will go into the inventory. And again, this will be associated back to the user account that processed the transaction. So if there's any discrepancies, you can easily look at the audit trail report and find out where they came from and try to track down the source of the problem. As you can see here, we received 3 items on adjustment number 39. 4 items actually total. And issue stock is very similar. In this case, it's a little less freeform because you do have to select something that is available. And the system will tell you if it detects an error in the transaction that you're trying to run. So here you can see we only have it available in 2 locations in the warehouse, so we have to select one of those. And we just click Save and Finish Issue. The system does provide a variety of different reason codes in order for tracking the transactions. By default, we have about, I'd say 15 different codes in here, about 10 for the issuing side of things and about 6 maybe for the receiving side of things. And these associate back to different types of transactions that are available in the system.
So Ben, they mainly work with purchase orders. Can we start there and do a purchase order and then receive?
Sure. Okay. Sorry, I clicked ahead there a little faster than I should have. Okay, so this is the current purchase order list. From here, you can easily access and view existing purchase orders in the system. This is one of the standard documents for a purchase order. And we'll put in a new one here. On the purchase order screen, we do allow for either manual or auto numbering of the purchase orders. So you can see here at the top, by default, we use auto numbering. The screen here only requires that you select where the purchase order is intended to head to. So, for example, for this transaction, we will receive it into Acme Manufacturing. However, you can invoice it to a separate warehouse if needed. So this base system is designed so that we can invoice to the corporate offices and ship to the manufacturing warehouse. Each warehouse can have different options to designate whether they are a ship to or a ship from type warehouse in order to further control the inventory flow. I do apologize. I don't know why my system's running so slow here today. Oh, well, that might explain it. Oh, it tried to send an email and it couldn't connect. Okay. So now we have purchase order 29 in the system. From here, we can, the system does support approvals and tracking of different attributes here. All of these are optional and can be enabled or disabled as needed. We'll proceed with just setting up a basic purchase order and processing it. So from the purchase order line screen, we simply click Add Line, and we can select different parts to process here. And we'll put 2 different ones on there. This screen will allow you to change the unit prices, change the costs as needed if they vary from what is predefined in the system. Additionally, you can set a default location to receive into, and you can also do conversions on this screen. So, for example, if you order in cases or some other unit of measure where you're getting multiple units per package, you can do that conversion here in order to track them individually in your system. We have a lot of clients that buy in bulk and then sell individually. So this component can do that conversion. And those conversions can be set up for the unit of measure to process. So you can see here we have 1 purchase order unit, but that will receive 10 units into our system if we selected this unit of measure. However, I'm going to put it back to each because I don't know how that will react with a serialized item. And at this point, this purchase order can be received. If approvals are turned on, there are a few extra steps that you have to jump through in here. But for now, we'll just process this through. And actually, I'll stop right there ahead of time. That way we can look over here. In the background, I have had the Sage interface running during this meeting. So you can see we do have the purchase order being copied over to Sage as we're working. The interface runs every couple of minutes and will copy transactions created in Inventory Pro across to Sage. And if we come in here and take a look at the purchase order list, we should see number 29. And you can see here we have the 2 items and the amounts have copied across here. The system will also assign them to the GL account as set up in Inventory Pro, or it will detect the GL account automatically from Sage if there is no default set. And then once we receive this transaction, it should close out that purchase order.
Now, if you need to print that purchase order to send to our vendor, do you print it from Inventory Pro or do you print it from Sage?
It depends on the client. Some of our clients continue to print from Sage. However, we do have the documentation and everything in Inventory Pro Online, so it can be printed from either location.
It looks like the Sage purchase order? Oh, there you go.
We can customize this as needed in order to fit closer to what you're expecting in Sage currently.
Okay.
So this is just a default, boilerplate document here. So this can easily be customized and changed. For example, some clients do not want the barcodes here that are built in by default and such. And if we open that purchase order back up, you can see it's received in. And once this, it actually already is closed out because that was a complete receipt. So at this point, this is ready to be paid out. And that does need to be processed in Sage, the actual marking the purchase order as paid and such. Inventory Pro does not take that final step in the transaction. It moves everything along up to that point, and then the confirmation needs to be put in. And similarly, a few different types of items are copied across. So I'll pause this interface for a moment here. We copy the inventory items, the vendors, the customers, and the purchase orders and sales orders over to Sage. So as those different items are modified and changed in Inventory Pro, this application here will detect those changes and copy them across. The interface does normally run on about a 2-minute delay, so it's fairly quick, and things are up to date. Any questions or concerns so far?
How about adding an item manually to a purchase order, like a new item?
Sure. The purchase orders can be modified up to the point that you start to receive them. So up until that point, you can continue to add line items. So if we open this one up here, you can see that this one has not been received against yet. So if I add a line item here to purchase order number 28, all you do is click Add Line, and it applies it down here. Additionally, we do support special one-time buy type items in Inventory Pro. That is a special option that has to be turned on, though, so I wouldn't be able to demo it right here.
That way you don't have to use the same number over and over and do those one-time off. And the other thing that we can do is do the whole unit, where you're bidding those big packages, and then go in like we're doing now, and when the bill comes in, then we can itemize that total dollar amount that was purchased out. So if you guys do one big purchase order for $10,000, we can still continue to break out the PO like we're doing right now, so that we have the individual items that eventually add up to the $10,000 by changing it here. So it'd be the exact same thing that we're doing now to account for all the items against that $10,000 PO.
And there is another screen over here on the right that controls the terms and conditions and allows you to modify the different shipping totals and such as needed. Yeah, that's about it for the purchase orders. There's not a ton going on there. Pretty similar to how it works in Sage and all that. Now you'll notice that the purchase order number 28 is not showing up immediately here. That's because it is a couple of months old, so just had to change my date range there. And you'll see it did add on the additional lines here.
Was there a place for notes on the purchase orders? If we had some
yes,
notes.
there is.
Okay.
It's cut off the screen here a bit on the right, but we do have a line notes field where you can track notes for the individual line items. We also support different remarks and notes when you actually receive the inventory into the system, in case there is damage or anything else you would like to note. And the notes and totals page here as well, you can put in some additional details for the purchase order if needed.
Okay.
And then so for the counter, we can also do direct ship POs too. So you're still utilizing that option to direct ship items.
Okay.
So do we want to go into sales? Because we want to do the invoicing through this program too.
Sure. So I believe we had discussed previously about the quick order module. So the quick orders and sales orders / shipping orders in our system, they basically equate over to the sales orders in Sage. And what they're used for is removing stock from the system. This screen here is the quick order screen. This allows you to select a customer, whether it's a specific customer or a generic customer that you set up, is dependent on how you use the system. But here we can select a customer and essentially just select what we would like to ship out to them. So we can either enter in a few different numbers here on the screen, or we have some other formats for this where you can do a selection like we did on the issue stock screen or the receive stock screen. And this is entirely configurable within the application. So there's a few different ways to go around it, but this is something that you can set up to be customer facing even if you wanted your customers to be able to log in and place orders directly. And once they're ready to process their transaction here, they just click on the review button and then click on the place order button if everything looks good. Okay, and you'll see we have a confirmation message there, and from here we can either look at the packing slip for the document, or we can jump back over, or we can click on the link there to see the shipping order that was entered. Shipping orders work similarly to the purchase orders, where you can have a separate billing address from your shipping address, and the system allows you to map that out on the customer record. So if you had 5 different sites you might ship to, but only one central office that the bill is supposed to arrive at, you can configure that through here. And we have a number of other attributes going down the screen, similar to the purchase orders as well. On the line item screen, it does look slightly different. We do allow for notes and a lot of the same fields here. We also allow you to set up a kit or an assembly and then load a shipping order from that. So if you have a very common order that you're constantly using, those can be predefined here and immediately loaded up. And a variety of the documents are available from the top of the screen. The packing list again. And we also have picking lists, which would suggest how to go out to the warehouse and pull those items. And I actually need to toggle an option because I was testing something earlier. One moment. There are about 200 or so different options in the system that you can toggle on or off in order to customize it a little bit to however you're using it. Okay, so at this point, this order could be shipped. And from here, all we do is click Issue and press OK. And this will take us over to the Issue Stock screen, and it will preload it with whatever we have selected here. So since I left the location field blank, it will automatically assign those based on what it thinks is appropriate. And I'll actually click Load All because I believe some of those are serialized. And you'll notice it gave me a message because one of the locations didn't have enough stock. The system will try to warn you whenever you're making mistakes like that. At this point, all we had to do is click Finish Issue, and that will process the transaction. You'll notice since it gave me an error and I did not ship completely, the system does have support for back orders, and one was automatically created. And if we go over to the shipping orders area, we can see that back order here waiting to be fulfilled for that last item. And the back order option and a number of the other options here are optional and can be enabled or disabled based on how you intend to use the system. And that's most of the shipping orders area. We do again have the invoice and totals area, which allows you to put a little bit more detail on the transaction. And we also have packages where you can track the weights of different shipments on the outbound end and pull in the tracking numbers if you're using an external service such as FedEx or UPS in order to ship the inventory. And that's about it for that. We also have credit memos. Go ahead.
Then can you go through the invoices a little bit more, because they're heavy on the invoices. They're going to be using credit cards at the counter, and they have to provide invoices to the customers, as well as they'll be invoicing their monthly contract bills too through this. So can you review that a little bit more with sales tax?
Sure. So the invoice is generated off of the shipping order. This is another standard document in the system that we customize per the client's needs. If it was configured here on my testing site, we do support logos at the top left of all these documents, and also custom invoice numbers as needed. We have a system in place for sales taxes and such. Again, don't necessarily have all that here in my my testing instance, but you can define different sales taxes and utilize those automatically based on the customers given. And let me see if I have a purchase order in here that has some more information on it. Fortunately, I don't know if I do. Oh, that filter won't help. This is an example of one of the date range filters, as I mentioned previously. Okay, so now see if I have an older transaction here that might have something. Yeah, we'll just put on some numbers there. So the system allows these calculations to run in a few different ways. Depending on the state, the taxable charges can vary, so we allow you to toggle those on or off or configure that in the database. And we'll just say $200 for shipping, and I'll click save there. Oh yeah, helps if you look at the order status there. Oh, it's a quote. Confusing myself there a bit. Okay, change that to 6% and put it set for 200. Okay, so if we open the, if we go back out to the shipping order list and we look at the invoice now. Oh, I have to open up the right order. Okay, so this is an example of the document with some of the additional fields filled out. So it will do the calculations for the sales tax percentages and such. As I said, those do have to be defined and set up in the system. Otherwise, as I just did here, they are a free-form data entry. We can set up defaults for the quick orders. So if you're always doing an order within your state or right at the kiosk, we can set it up for the default sales tax right there. But it is a configurable system here, and we do leave it open-ended because we do support international clients as well. And these things get a little complicated, I'm sure you can imagine.
And then
but yeah, so this is the default document.
So the invoices don't have to go interface into Sage until we say so, right? Because one of the things we want to do is have Lynn be able to go in and verify all the invoices prior to going into Sage, or is that wrong?
So one of the things we do support is the quote status, as you saw a moment ago, that I got hung up on. So the quotes and drop shipments and such are not processed across to Sage. So what we can do is set up your quick orders by default to go into the quote status. And then until someone comes in here and approves them or otherwise puts them into a different status, they would not be operated upon. I believe I had that in my notes actually from the previous meeting we did.
Is that helpful for you?
I prefer if it would go into Sage first,
and then I could verify that they entered all the information correct.
Well, so just remember you can't go backwards, though.
You can't go back at all?
No.
Mm-hmm. So the way the interface works here is it's primarily one way from Inventory Pro to Sage. So
Okay.
any major modifications to the orders should occur in Inventory Pro instead of Sage. So ideally we would have it, the verification or the validation happen right here through Inventory Pro. We do have email alerts and other things we can set up to notify you when new orders come in. That way you can process them quickly or know that they're there.
On the invoicing, is there a way to enter like a job number, a PO number, a job name?
So we do have a number of fields here that can be renamed and customized. We have the customer PO here by default. And we did discuss in the previous meeting doing some customization to pull across the job numbers and other details as well. By default, we do the customer PO, and I believe the invoice number is supported. But the job numbers and such are, it's a feature that we don't necessarily have in Inventory Pro. So it's something we'd have to, give you a way to replicate. I'll just open up a shipping order here. So the job ID and such is what you would want to copy across, correct?
Well, that's our job number there. But like a lot of times our customers have job numbers of their own, along with purchase order numbers that they require on the invoice.
That could be tracked. It depends on how you would like to track that. We can easily add additional fields in Inventory Pro. So if you wanted to track a few different attributes there, it shouldn't be a problem. With every screen in the system, that has this format here, at the bottom right, the administrators get this customize button here. And through there, we can remap different fields in the system and, give you different options. So you can see here, we have toggleable options on the right, so we can control, what you can see and what you can't see, and, what shows up on the screen. So we could easily reappropriate some of the extra columns we have built in and allow you to track those different data points. Now that said, only a few of them will copy across to Sage. So, we can make a custom invoice out of Inventory Pro in order for you to use, if that's the case.
Any other questions?
You guys have any questions?
So we'll use this in place of Retail Pro.
And Excel. Because Ty would be able to come out in here and receive the material in here along with Jill.
Can we see the date that was done?
I would think so.
So once they receive inventory in, is there a place to put who received it and on what date?
Mm-hmm. With every transaction, we store exactly who processed the transaction, what happened on that transaction. So if we go over to the audit trail report, which I had showed you earlier as well, we can see here that the administrative user account, CIS admin, processed the shipping order a few moments ago. And you can see the entire transaction history of stock movements on this report here. So we have a variety of statuses, such as stock leasing, stock transits between warehouses, stock issuing and moving. So anytime inventory is modified in any way, you'll be able to see it right here on this report. We also have some more fine-grained reports, which look specifically at the stock issuing or the stock receiving. And these will give you a few more details, such as the specific amount, the reason codes and such. And there's about 200 reports in the system. So if you can't find something in the base system to meet your reporting needs, we can always add a custom report on top of that as well.
You also talked about your warehouse guy could possibly use his mobile phone in receiving things, because I know there's a computer issue. So that's a possibility
Yes.
as well.
So we do have the mobile application. This is a mobile web app which you can open on your iPhones or Android phones. And it's basically the same thing. It's just simplified for the touch interface. We log in and select the warehouse. And we can run a lot of the different stock transactions, receiving, issuing, moving. Through here, we can also do some special operations. Cycle count here allows you to count the inventory in the warehouse and compare that against what was expected. So you can use that to find any variance or differences. Scanner issue is a kiosk type application. So some clients will use this at like a checkout counter where they will just scan each item once as it comes across the counter, and they can build up a transaction and process it through here to consume that inventory. And then we do allow you to look up and work with different purchase orders as well. So you can select a purchase order, select what you would like to receive, and receive it directly through the application here. And again, that all flows back into the same database and will be operated upon by the Sage interface. Oh, it's one of those is a serialized item. Whoops. But yeah, it gives you pretty much the same capability as you would have in the desktop application, and it allows you to move around the warehouse with a little bit more mobility.
And he also would only have, you can set him up only to receive or what have you.
If we get him like a tablet or something back there, he can scan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the system, as was just mentioned, the system does support groups and permissions, so you can have fine-grained control over which groups have access to what different modules through here. So you can see this is the administrative group, and we have full access. And then if you look at the employee group, they have more limited access here.
Or that if he had something that would stay here rather than his own phone.
Sure.
Plus, a lot of times the screens are kind of hard to navigate through when you got a small phone.
Yeah, if we had just a little, like a Samsung that would have the program on it, that he can go back, that he can actually, pull up the PO and do whatever.
Right.
Instead of writing stuff, you can actually
so we're
scan
just,
or write.
versus a phone, they're just talking about the tablet, just in case, the warehouse guy would have a bigger screen, make notes or what have you with regards to the orders that are coming in.
The tablet screens are a bit easier to use. When the keyboards pop up on the smaller screens, it can be a little difficult.
So yeah, that's a good option. And everybody
He could stay here.
Right.
Because if he has his phone with him, then
right.
if we get somebody comes in the back.
Right. Of course, anybody can log in. So you would have your own email address that would log in, and then you would have your own rights. So if Patty does purchase orders, maybe the warehouse guy doesn't, but he just receives, but Patty could receive as a backup if needed to, too. So it doesn't necessarily that you have to be at that tablet. You can be at any computer doing that, too.
What about, did you guys talk about importing our database now, inventory?
Yes, we did. So we're going to have to get it on some kind of file, which they would help us with. So although we can't go, so everything is going to go from Inventory Pro into Sage, but we can, when the setup, go into Inventory Pro. So we would try to get some CSV file or something on Retail Pro and see if we can enter it in that way. And then anything else that we would have in Sage, we could enter in there, like vendor names and customer names.
The inventory.
Yeah, because we can get the correct Excel or CSV files out of Sage. I don't know in Retail Pro. We're going to have to look into that and see what we can do to populate some kind of a report.
Does it all reside on a web page, or where does it reside on the program itself, the database?
So the database resides on the It depends on the installation path you choose. We have a few different packages we sell. By default, we are trying to drive most customers towards the software as a service, where it's hosted on our servers, and we handle the maintenance and the backups, and such. And we also have a sales package where you can buy licenses outright and install the system on your own servers. So it is variable in that degree. The Sage interface application here would have to be installed on a computer on your network in order to interface with Sage. So that is the only caveat there. We can allow that access to our cloud servers. It's just an additional thing that would need to be set up.
Are updates automatic? Or are they manual?
Updates are automatic. Most of the time, you won't even notice they're happening. There is in the next release, there will be a little notification you'll get when you log in that an update has occurred. Otherwise, it will pop up in the lower right-hand corner here. This is the current version number. You'll see it change occasionally. Generally, updates, we try to keep them very, very targeted. So, we try not to break anything that exists. But every once in a while, there might be a hiccup. We are constantly working on adding new features and such, though. So we do provide that to you as a free service if you have it hosted on our servers. If you host it on your own servers, we organize updates every 3 to 6 months in order to make sure you're not falling too far behind the current code base.
That makes you happy?
Depends on where you plan on hosting it, whether it's here or on there.
Yeah, so the desktop version of Sage is always going to have to, we're not going to be able to move that to like cloud if that ever happens. We would need to stay on the desktop version, right? Is that what we talked about?
The interface here is specifically designed for the desktop version. So we would be locked down to, to Sage 50 US desktop version there. At some point, we will probably investigate, converting over to work with their cloud systems, but they are very, very different than the desktop version. So.
So the other thing that this allows us to do, which we're worried about, is not store all the inventory in Sage. And it keeps all the inventory in Inventory Pro, because we have that maximum limit that we have on Sage 50 of the information. We're going to keep that inventory in Inventory Pro instead of putting it into Sage. So.
That's a huge file that we have issues with, the database.
I can imagine.
Okay.
Additionally, some of the other features that Inventory Pro.
There's a whole inventory in there, like you guys have in Retail Pro.
Sure.
Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
No worries. Additionally, some of the features that Inventory Pro provides that aren't available in Sage are the warehouse organization. So you can categorize it by the specific warehouse location, and then locations within the warehouses. Just to sort the inventory a little bit more cleanly. Additionally, we do also allow for the cycle counts and the auditing of the inventory levels as well. And all these features here are provided with the base system. Anything you see here on these menus.
So as an overview, you wouldn't be doing POs in Sage anymore. You wouldn't be receiving in Sage anymore. But AP and all the payables are strictly Sage. That wouldn't get paid out of there at all. And then the invoicing would be through Inventory Pro, and then released into Sage once you release it.
Well, it would have to be me anyways, because I'd have to print them up. Because once they enter it, like, they're gonna be given a pack, or SO or a pack list or whatever when they leave with the material, but when they download the invoices into Sage, I'd have to still print them up and then verify everything was okay and then either mail them or email them, right?
Well, you could still do that in Inventory Pro before you send it to Sage.
Additionally, Inventory Pro does support some automatic print utilities and such. So if so desired, we can automatically print out labels or packing slips or other information and set that up on a computer on your network.
So I'm just talking about like counter sales. So if they go make a counter sale, they're doing it right then, right? You're not involved in that?
No, they give me it all. I go through all the invoices.
Before it goes to the client?
Before it goes to the client, I look at everything.
Unless it's a credit card.
Well, yeah, stuff with credit cards or like a check. But anything that's like to any of our customers, I look at them and I either email them, a lot of them want them emailed now, or I mail them.
Okay.
After I look at them.
Which I'm sure you can do at Inventory Pro too.
Right.
Either way. However you want to send Sage first, or if you want to do it in Inventory Pro.
Either process would work. We do have automatic emailing built into Inventory Pro as well. If you wanted to be forwarded a copy of the PDF or the document, as soon as it's generated.
And that would just be a process you're going to have to look at and decide what you want to do.
It's like a Sage. I email it once it's entered in.
Right.
Invoice is entered in. So.
Right. What about credit card payments? That wouldn't be a function in Inventory Pro?
We don't support it directly in Inventory Pro. Occasionally we have done some interfaces to other third-party applications that can import the orders after they've been, paid for and such. But we don't do anything directly in Inventory Pro.
Okay. So no, you won't be receiving any payments for invoices there. It would all have to go to Sage first to receive a payment.
Patty! I guess we're going to have to get Mark trained on there.
I do believe so. Any other questions? Are you guys kind of liking it?
Just, you'd have to play with it, see.
Like with anything.
Like,
Then the questions will come.
yeah, we found that with Sage.
Right.
On the surface, it looks fine, and then you find little things you'd like to be a little different. This looks more flexible than Sage.
It
Start
is.
adding fields,
Right.
which is nice.
And this is the only program that that automatically went into Sage.
We looked high and low. This is Cheryl. We looked high and low. There aren't many that interface with Sage 50.
And it's a difficult interface. This is very seamless so far. So that we can tell. Yeah.
So all of our customer information, can it be like, the addresses and tax ID numbers and all that, hopefully we'll be able to be downloaded into this?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes, in the initial setup, we will copy the existing customers and suppliers or vendors across from Sage over into Inventory Pro, and then moving forward, you can just enter the the new information into here, and it will copy across.
Oh, perfect. In one place.
Now, as far as training, do they send somebody out, or this is how they do the training?
So we kind of talked about that. Ben prefers to do the remote training than send somebody out. Correct? Versus
normally
coming out to
that's
train.
the way we prefer it. It's the problem with traveling out is there's a lot of wasted travel time there, and sometimes you get there and people don't have their questions ready yet. So it's much more convenient to at least do the initial training over the internet, just to get you familiarized with the program.
Yeah, and can I just interject something? Yeah, can I just interject that, we find it much more efficient to do an hour a day over 5 days than to try to do 8 hours in one day. you know, people have work to do, and people also get really, you know, after a couple of hours and sitting in a chair, you know, trying to do something, it becomes very, you know, ineffective. So, you know, doing an hour a day over a week or two is much, much more effective and affordable.
Agreed.
And allows you to use it,
Well, not
come up
only
with
use
your,
it, come
right,
up with questions,
correct,
things you gotta run into.
right.
Is there a limit on how many users can be on at one time?
So that's gonna be a little bit on the cost side, depending on how many users you want. Ben, can you explain that part again on the users?
I'll take
Sure,
over
there's
this, okay.
Yeah, sorry, I muted again, Zach, sorry. There's a 3-user minimum, and we sell by concurrent users. So you can have 500 users in the system, but you're only paying for the number that are active in the system at the same time. So there's 2 different pricing models. One is SaaS, which is the software as a service, where we host the application for you. And that is basically $80 per concurrent user. So if you had 5, it would be $400 a month. We start to discount after you get many more than 5. I don't know how many you guys anticipate. I wasn't really anticipating many more than like 5 or 6. Can you give me some sort of sense on how many users you might have?
Now, what do they consider users at one time? I mean,
How many people are logged into the system actively? So if you only have
Well,
3 people actively using the system, you don't
Well,
need to.
Plan it to exit. Right now,
I
we've
mean,
got 5, let's
you
say.
could be in and out, so, you know,
Right. But
he
see,
may come in and be on it for an hour and then leave for a day.
but
well,
I would
those
think
2
you
will
and
probably
Mark
be on
would
it all the
Yeah.
time. You know, Wes is gonna do billing on it. You've got Mark that's gonna be in it. You're gonna have, you
You're
know,
probably gonna want 7, 7.
so, depending. You've got the warehouse guy too.
So they don't necessarily have to be on it all the time, they just have to be able to be on it.
Right, that's the concurrency thing. So if somebody's in for an hour and out, it frees up, you know, that license to be used by somebody else.
And the system is forgiving, but so if someone leaves themselves logged in and isn't doing anything, the system will automatically log them out to let other people get into the system.
So what you're saying is we could have 10 email addresses for 10 employees, but only 5 users at a time.
Right.
And
then,
for most clients, 5 to 10 is enough. You don't really have many more people than that having to, you know, get in at the same time.
And the other thing is, you know, if you start out with 4 and you find out you're very frustrated and you need to add one more, you can just add another one. You know, you don't, or you know, it's a little bit easier, honestly, to add than take away, because if you have to take away, then you're never quite sure you've hit the limit. You know, but if you start out with too few and you get frustrated, then you just add another one. You know, if you start out with 5, but you're only really ever using 3, you know, you're going to have to ask us how many you're using, because you'll never hit the limit. Am I making sense? So I would encourage you to, you know, if you think 4 might work, start with 4. You know, and if it works, great. And then if it doesn't, just add another one. But, you know, if you start with 10, we're very thankful to take the money, but, you know, if you only need 4, you know, you've just wasted 6 licenses that you really don't need. So.
No, what I'm saying is we can get, so if the warehouse guy's in it an hour a day, he could still have his own email address for audit purposes that he would log in, somebody else was not using it, correct?
Yep.
So there could be 10.
Yeah, you can have hundreds of users. You know, give everybody in the company a username.
Okay.
All we care about are people logged in at the same time.
Okay. Yep. Great. Sounds good. So the only other thing we probably need to talk to them about is cost a little bit. And
yeah. So I hadn't really finished my licensing thing. I gave you the $80 per concurrent user if we're hosting it. It's $1,000 per concurrent user if you buy it. And it gets a little bit more complicated because then there's also an annual maintenance fee. So I'm happy to quote either way or both ways, and then you can decide. We do charge an up fee of basically $1,700 for the Sage interface, whether you host it or not. So that's basically what the fee is for the Sage interface. So
we talked about the one-time cost being somewhere in between the 2,000 to 5,000 range. Is that right?
right, that's the $1,000 per user. It would have been 3,000 to 5,000.
Okay.
And then you've got that Sage interface on top of it.
Okay. So how many users are you guys thinking currently?
Five, I think.
I think 5 would be on the low side.
Okay.
So we probably want to start at 5.
So could we get a couple quotes for 5 users?
Yeah, sure.
And then the one-time fees, and then see the 2 different hosting costs?
Yeah, I think I've already worked one up. I'll just update it and send it back out.
Okay. And can you include Lynn and Steve on that as well?
Sure. If yeah, I think so. If not, you can forward it. Yeah.
Sure. Mm-hmm. And then we talked about a little bit of there's going to, depending on how much customization that we need to make. So like obviously we definitely want to get the job numbers on there or any things like that. And that's kind of dependent on what we need and how much time they need to customize it. So that's where you're at.
Right.
Any other questions?
I like it.
Yeah. I think it'll work with everything that we're doing now, plus give more options. Yeah, it's a pretty simple system, and again, you guys don't have to use all the features.
Everybody else out of Sage.
Exactly.
That's her whole point.
That's what I thought.
Nobody else is getting Sage anymore, except for the accounting
Jill and
people.
I.
Yeah.
Except for the credit card thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't accept credit cards anymore?
All right, Ben, well, I appreciate it. We'll wait for your quotes. And Cheryl, do you have anything to add?
No, I think this is a good fit for them based on what we've seen so far, so, and plus what I've seen in the marketplace.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.